Alright, hey everybody, and welcome to the Punch Bomb Development live stream. I'm just going to be working on the boss model for the Descend game mode. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them in the chat, and feel free to just hang out and learn stuff. So first things first, I'm going to set up the play area, which is 2 meters by 2 meters. Hey Oscar, how's it going? I'm working on my game. Which, this is probably going to be somewhat boring if you're more interested in watching game stuff, but I'm just modeling. The human is to get... It's a VR game, so the human is to get general feel for scale, but I'm going to be working on the boss model, so I guess I'll start out with the head. Let's reset you. I guess we'll start out with the eyes. Just get general placement for that. And mirror it over. And when I'm modeling, I tend to just sort of... I have a general idea of what I want in my head, and I have some reference that I like, but it's all guesswork, so a lot of this could be redone. Let's see. General head shape. Alright, have a good day, dude. I'll stream Fortnite sometime soon when we're online again. I think we want sort of like an inset for the eyes, make sort of like a cool paneled look. He's angry. I don't like where this is going. I'm gonna go back to the cube approach. Just because that's how he needs to sort of match the style of the bombs in the game. And the easiest way to do that is to model the head in sort of a similar fashion. we can mirror this. Get sort of a nice curve. And here's a trick. If you set the edges to be sharp for hard ops, and then you solidify, then you get the nice bevel. I'm just going to be working here. If anybody has any questions while I'm going, feel free to ask them. I just figured I'm working on my game. I might as well stream it. Maybe it'll help someone out. And I think we want to generally follow the shape of a skull. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some image reference for that. Documents, game design, Punchbomb. Documents, game design, Punchbomb, live stream, skull ref. So this will give us a general idea of what a skull looks like, which can help sort of make a creepy looking kind of boss. So get rid of you. We'll add a cylinder. Then we want 16. Gotta be really wary of sort of vertex requirements when you're working with games. And the smooth select is a cool feature in Blender. You can turn it on right here. If you select one thing, then it'll move things based on a curve, anything nearby it. So if I move one vertex, it moves everything, but based on a curve. And then you can scroll the mouse wheel to change the area of influence. But we just want this guy to have sort of a little bit of a curve, I think. And then maybe we should give him a mouth. That would be kind of cool. And a lot of this is just trial and error to try stuff, see if we like it. And if we don't, then change it. I'm thinking we can put a mouth right here. Make these like two separate panels. And then take you. And drag you up. And you can change the curve for this. And maybe we'll add like a cool looking hinge or something. And we want to bevel this, just because it makes things look nice. This looks so garbage right now. But it'll get better. We just have to sort of figure it out. And if anybody has any questions or anything about how to use Blender or what keys I'm using for anything, feel free to ask in the chat. I turned on the screencast keys to make it a little bit easier to follow along, but I know I can move fast. Because time is money. And then let's go ahead and delete this again. Alright, so that gives us the start of a little head. We can add some detail here. Maybe we don't want to delete this. Maybe we want to duplicate it and make it its own thing. So we can change the offset for the solidify. And change the thickness of it. What was going on there was the normals were flipped. Let's just sort of block out shapes, see where it takes us. Give him sort of a helmet, maybe. Again, this is just a general me working on stuff video. If this was a tutorial, it would be more structured and stuff. But when I'm working, I don't know what I'm doing. I just sort of try things until they work. I don't know if I like that. We'll keep it for now, but it's really easy to remove. And when this guy is done, his general scale will be that his fist is about as big as this platform, which is 2 meters by 2 meters. So he's probably going to be a bit smaller than this. And let's sort of tuck you back in here. We can rotate you a little bit more. We can probably change the shape of this a little bit to make it a little more elongated. And an easy way to do that is to snap cursor to selected, hide everything else, and scale you down based on the cursor. And same thing, but we should probably make it a little bit less circular. Alright, moving right along. We can sort of scale this up to make it go more into a jawline. Maybe make it even come up under here. Almost like he has mechanical sort of connections or muscles or something, I don't know. But it all needs to make a little bit more sense mechanically. And then drag you out to make it sort of collide. We don't want it to actually intersect, we just want it to be close. Maybe he needs like a nose or something. I don't know. And I think the eyes can be a bit smaller if they're more beady. Which, when we texture this, these are going to be like bright, glowing LEDs sort of things. So we can probably take these, make them a bit smaller, a bit more creepy. We're going to have to add some interior machinations to this. Let's go ahead and make this long part go the entire extent. So we can duplicate that, delete it. Then if we join this to this, it should automatically take its properties. I don't know why it's so big. Oh, I see what I did wrong. We literally just want the center one. And if we increase the thickness here, might be kind of cool. Set the offset to 0. Almost like this is sort of holding it all together. He looks too happy. He definitely looks too happy. Maybe if we gave him an underbite, it would be creepier. And to cover this all up, we can add like a hinge here. I am not liking how this whole thing is looking like at all. But maybe it'll turn into something, who knows. Get a better idea of what things are. He just doesn't look very creepy. Maybe the scale will make it look creepier. I think the underbite makes him look friendly. This is why it's nice to have a concept artist on the team, but since I'm making the game alone and I'm god-awful at drawing, I just sort of wing it. It's worked out alright so far. And the LEDs have to be powered somehow. Like, if you're modeling stuff, generally machines tend to be made for form. Or like everything, or function, everything on the machine needs to have sort of a purpose. So the panels are sort of like his armor for the interior workings, and they just happen to be designed in a bipedal structure is what we're going to go for. Well, not necessarily a bipedal because we're not going to see his legs, we're only going to see his upper half, but give him sort of like a nose. I don't know, nose might make him a little bit too human. I don't know if I like that at all. Maybe I gave him some like paneling for teeth or something. Yeah, this is definitely not really a tutorial as much as it is sort of like an artist process video. If you hit G twice, you can slide edges, vertices along their edges, and you can also slide edges the same way. If I select that edge, it'll only slide. He looks like a happy robot. Maybe he'd look less happy if he didn't have any teeth at all. Or if we somehow made it into a frown. Like this curve would need to be inverted. He is still smiling. Oh, what do I do here? I'm thinking we delete, or we'll save it in case we want it back. I'll save it on our trash layer, and then we will, or, good thing we saved it. I haven't done any characters for this project yet. It's all just been like machines and stuff. So this is definitely going to be more of a challenge. Although, I've done a lot of character modeling work in my day. There's not a lot of robots. Yeah, we can keep that for now. Could potentially even take you. And Bridget. you to be shorter. Can you bring you out a little bit more? I think narrower eyes are going to feel more evil, and wider eyes are going to feel more happy and sort of friendly. I think the mouth is really gonna... So let's go ahead and make the eyes glow. Or not glow, just bright, just so we can sort of see how they feel. I'm thinking either red or white. I want to be in cycles. We'll put like a general plane and a light in the scene just for test rendering. Which this will all be in Unreal at the end of the day. Or not necessarily today, but just at the end of the project, these will all be in Unreal, so the lighting won't look as good. But we'll put lights right here, just so we can get a general feel for what things are looking like. And we'll assign the new material. I think that's kind of working. Maybe add like one more extrusion to sort of hide the eyes just a little bit more. Of course, that makes him look really happy. So we'll also have to extrude this down. Oh, there we go. That's starting to look like something. And when it's in Unreal, there will be post-processing effects like bloom that will add like sort of a cool glow to the eyes. So if anybody wants me to, I can also stream Unreal work, if anybody would find that sort of useful. And I think we can probably get away with deleting some of these loops. I don't generally like to delete things just in case I need them again, so we'll just separate them and move them to our trash layer. That is looking similar to something. I think we can take all of these edges and sort of push them in so they match up with the hinge. And it looks like we have extra edges we can delete. God, he's looking almost like the Iron Giant. Like an evil version, maybe. And this will all be metal and stuff textured when it's in Unreal, which will be kind of neat. It's just a start. It's a decent start. Let's make our lighting set up a little bit better. I think it would look cool if we had some nice rim light on him. try that, and then let's move on to just continuing to block him out. I think the idea will be to get him blocked out and then add details. So next up will be the body. Which maybe sculpting this out in ZBrush would be smart to just get a good start. And you can also mirror this. Which we will want this part to be like legit smooth. So we'll bevel it a couple more times. Maybe give him some hard lines. Like the general look that I like for this game is smooth paneling with hard lines. I'm thinking this should be sort of just like a breastplate, so we can delete the sides and solidify it. Maybe something sort of like this, where it's all split up, just to add further detail. It's always helpful to have anatomy images to look at, so I'm looking up some human anatomy images right now on Google, your greatest friend for learning or finding anything. Let's look at the side view here. We'll give him a little bit of a longer neck. Maybe not too long though. Maybe sort of like a nice chest shape paneling. If we turn on clipping, then we can't overlap into the other side of the mirror, which is nice. I think the rib cage can go a little bit further. And then let's give him some wider shoulders. Maybe something like that. So let's sort of get the paneling laid out, and then we'll focus on the internals. So we've got the head, we've got a general torso shape that I'm not completely hating. Now maybe let's add some arm panels. The arms are going to be really important on this one. Just because he's going to be punching the player. I think we can bring this in some. I'm not really happy with the head. We'll probably get back to that again later. I just want to block out general shapes right now. I'm thinking like scanny arms and big fists. Maybe big forearms. Of course, we don't want to... Oh, the more I work on this, the more I'm like, damn, this is looking similar to the general style of the Iron Giant, which I don't want to copy. Also, the eyes will probably end up being red, so I'll go ahead and mess with that a little bit. Mix shader. Can mix in a white. And then we can mix it by facing ratio and swap those. Make you B-spline. Just for general testing. And we're going to need a neck for him. Let's go ahead and just add a cylinder for that. And scale it to sort of fit. Don't need the faces, we just need the neck. And then we'll split it up and detail it and make it an actual working joint later. We just want something sort of placeholder to see the look of it. I'm thinking can take you, and it needs to be moved back a bit. Something that I didn't do for this yet is just going through Google and finding a general style sheet, just finding robots that I like, which can always be really useful to just sort of see what general style you want to go for. So right now I'm just sort of scrolling through Google looking at general sci-fi robots to get a decent idea. Just having something that you can look at. Oh, that's a good reference. Right now I'm looking at the Terminator robot because those are pretty good references for kind of creepy looking robots. And they sort of match, they do match human anatomy, which is cool, and sort of what I want to go for, except giant fists, because it's a punching game. So if we sort of match the human anatomy here, we can get something a little bit closer to what I think I'm looking for. Is having a big head is coming across as too friendly. Try to match our head size and then match the body to that. I was way off. And on the side, this can just be front. On the side, we can have the image again, but much more matching. And this is from the right. So if we look at that size, we can just copy paste, and match you. And this will give us a general idea of proportions. Which will segment this all out to make sort of like a cool sci-fi looking robot neck eventually. I do still think we can make the head a little bit bigger. Almost sort of like that. So essentially we want like a robot kind of person with big fists is what we're going for. think the neck just needs to feel thicker. We can give him a bigger chest than a normal person. Exaggerate the proportions a little bit because he's a weird-ass robot. And I think this is going to have to be a separate panel just so it can rotate naturally. Wow, this is a giant train wreck. I am not happy with how this is going at all. I should probably get a concept artist. This looks really fucking ugly. Anyway, let's separate out the shoulders here. Give them sort of shoulder pads. We can bring you in. And this will give us more room to add sort of interiors. Because the interior robot parts are what are going to look cool. And no matter what, this is going to be like a giant robot standing in front of you as a person. So from the person viewpoint, let's grab you. Then we'll add a camera, or we'll take our camera and put it right here, just to get a good idea of what we're looking at from VR. So from the human head perspective, it'll look something like this. Which we're going to actually end up making it a little bit smaller, just because it needs to fit the size requirements for the boss battle that I want to make. But pretty... Oh, I guess that's pretty creepy. Now, a robot joint, or a shoulder joint, has to be able to move up and down, forward, back. So we have to figure out how to sort of make that mechanically. Which, looking at the Terminator robots, man, they have some complex designs. Makes me feel super inadequate. Here, I'll share this on my screen. I think it's this one. Yeah. So that's how they have their joints sort of working. They have like a motor to twist it. Then they have another one to move it that way, which about covers the range of motion that an arm would have. So we'll probably steal that, a similar sort of mechanism for how it would move. And then I guess they have the pistons and the pneumatics for moving up and down, which we're not going to worry about. He just has to be able to punch. And this is way more complicated than any of the other art in the game. Maybe we will just delete the shoulder pads though. Or have the shoulder pads but make them a lot narrower. So if we delete these vertices, and have just shoulders coming out of the main neck holder area. We don't need to do all of that crazy robot detail. As cool as it looks, it's just not gonna fit the game budget in terms of polygons. And we can probably edge split this. I think the more pieces we have, the cooler it's going to look. Smooth that out a bit, and then I think we can take the back piece and move it in. We can probably actually make another panel here. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Which, if anybody's actually watching and wants to talk in the chat, feel free. I'll answer any Blender questions, any general game design questions. Alright, so then for rigging purposes, we can also take our make human model and sort of get the general position and size of the arm. Since the reference image we have isn't T-pose, we can get general proportions here. So this is a little bit long for a forearm, so I'll shorten it down a little bit. Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and get the size for the next arm piece. But we'll go ahead and rotate you back out. Copy you. And just get the size. And it doesn't have to be 100% correct. We're making a sci-fi robot character. We just want the sizes of the pieces to look generally correct. Alright, so that will be the start of our arms. We don't need you anymore. Now you can be at least a little bit confident in thinking that the size is generally going to look not weird. So we can join these, apply their location, and mirror it. Let's go ahead and segment this up just a little bit. just to see what it looks like. Much cooler. Can probably even add a layer of detail to that. Scale that up. And move this in. Let's go ahead and add just a general basic metal material in Blender, and we're going to go redo all of the textures in Substance Painter when I get this modeled and unwrapped, which unwrapping this is going to be a bitch, for lack of better words, but we can save and we can add a principled shader. If you don't mess with this yet, it's pretty cool. It's like all the shaders in one, so we can just bump the metal up to 1, and now we have a shiny metallic dude. Then we can select everything, or all of the robot pieces, except for the eyes. And we can link the materials. Which, it's not a real metal material, it's just kind of like an ugly, let's see what it looks like if he's generally metallic kind of thing. And then we'll also give him some reflections. Documents, resources, Architecture Academy, skies, we'll do sunny, cloudy, half. It's a bit bright of an HDR, but it gives us a general idea. So let's say that his general neck rotator sort of extends through his body. Or at least down into his chest. And I think the shoulders are going to have to come up a little bit. We're going to use a JPEG for the background just because it'll load a lot faster. And let's add a general just cylinder here that we can detail up later, just as sort of like a joint. I'm not sure why that's splitting right there. Oh, we have multiple mirrors set up. We just want Z. I don't like how this is extending. I think we can get rid of our background images for now. And we're gonna do a true T-pose for this rig rather than the 45-degree angle one. Nobody's ever going to see the back, so I don't know why I'm worrying about that. Let's give him some biceps or some bicep panels. We could have just made a cylinder for this now that I think about it. Now, biceps are going to have to bend in, so more paneling is going to be on the back where the elbow is. And go for that general smooth paneling look that we've been talking about. And we don't need the interior cylinder for that anymore. We're just working on paneling right now. We can smooth this out a little bit later. And we'll solidify it. Solidify is one of my favorite modifiers, hands down, just because of how it works with hard ops and how I can bevel it. So if we C-sharpen to get the bevel, and then we add a solidify, put the solidify before the bevel and thicken it, and we get like cool paneling with a bevel, but we only have to modify the outside. So that's a good start for the biceps. We'll come in and detail it up once we get the rest blocked out. But we can probably go ahead and smooth it out a little bit. We don't want to use subdivision surface just because this is for a game and we have to be wary of our poly counts. That being said, we could probably subdivision surface it, apply it, and delete some edges. That might be a little bit faster. Let's start with that, because we got to picture his hands are laid out flat like this, so the fingers are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so now he's going to have bigger forearms. We can probably actually skinny this up a bit. We can take you, give it some loops. and just scale it up. We want this to be smooth. Maybe not quite that much. And we're going to rotate this in just a little bit so it'll make rigging and animation a little bit easier. And we can go ahead and make room for the joint so it can bend easy. So if we want to see how this will look when it rotates, we can put our cursor right here. We probably want to join these two just to make our lives a little bit easier. So he's never going to reach up like that. That looks ridiculous, but bent down like that doesn't look too bad. Then we only need one joint that rotates this way for this part of the arm. If we go back to our reference from Terminator, how they set up joints. Yeah, we're only going to need one that rotates this way for this part of the arm. And then we're going to need this one, which rotates like that. But then we also need that one. And then it looks like they have a third joint too. Wow, that's complicated. Because your shoulder can rotate pretty much any way. It's pretty much like a ball socket kind of joint controlled by your muscles. But you can't do that with a robot. So we're going to have to make some room for more joints. We don't need the grid or the relationship lines. Those are just going to get annoying. And we'll segment this more into more armor pieces as we go along. We just want to get stuff working right now. So this is sort of the blocked out upper body. Hands. Oh god, I don't even want to think about the hands right now. That's going to be tough. So we have to figure out a general hand design too, which will be ridiculous. But in general, his hands are going to be, I guess, like picture that like the fist. Let's just block out a general size for those. Let's give him really big fists. This is the one enemy in the game that actually punches back. So that'll be a general shape and size of the fists, except they're going to be more robotic and individual fingers and stuff. Also, that's probably really big. So then we can take this and scale it down a lot. Because the fists are going to be about as big as the platform. So somewhere around there seems to be the proper scale. So the boss will probably be about like that. We don't want to move him from our center, so we'll move this whole setup. So he's still big, he's just not going to be as big as he was because that was freaking huge. As the general idea of the boss fight is he's going to have cannons on his shoulders, which we're going to need to add in a bit. And then he's going to punch you every once in a while, and you're going to have to punch the fists away from you. And then they'll fly back and he'll hit himself in the face. Or something like that. We'll figure it out when I get to animation a couple weeks from now. Maybe next week. I don't know. Depends on how soon I get this whole thing completely finished, modeled and textured and rigged. Okay. We'll work on him at this size now. Don't need you. And then these can go to our robot layer. So now we can adjust our background image when we're working on proportions. It's going to be a lot smaller. Something like that. Then we'll take that scale, paste it here. That scale is not correct at all. Oh. Oh, I didn't change the size. I think these are actually a little bit big, but they're just general reference for us. We just want to get a good idea of what the legs and body should look like. Which will probably model in a good bit of the legs. Since we're in VR, we don't know where the player is going to be looking, and we don't know how that's going to be limited. Because they're just going to be on a platform in this big open area with the boss. So they're going to be able to look down the pit and see the robot legs. So we're going to have to figure that out as well. I think this can be even smaller. Something like that. Let's try it. Yeah, it looks better. So we'll copy, we'll paste, we'll go to the front view, and we'll recenter that. Then we'll add a plane. And we'll start blocking out the lower body. Which we want to center around the pivots. Something like that. Give him a nice pelvis. Give him a nice ass. Probably make it a bit thinner. Nobody will ever know the difference. can also mirror this one, just so we don't have to do things twice. And then we can bridge that. That looks totally weird. So I think we're gonna have to eye this one. We can set that, and then we can solidify it. And his legs, we'll start out with cylinders. Make those about as wide as the shoulders, I think. And then we can turn on our background to get the right length. Which looks something like that. and something like that. And then calves go the opposite direction. And these don't have to be super detailed or anything, because these are going to be in the dark, down where the player can barely see. We just want them there so they exist. And we're just tuning and tweaking, making it feel somewhat correct. That does not feel correct at all. And we'll split this up into more segments to detail it more and stuff. Right now, again, just blocking it out. Gotta make room for joints. That gives us some interesting shapes. Where to go from here? That is the question. The detailing stuff is always really tough to figure out. So those legs feel kind of short to me. Especially for a robot. I think we can also bring this up and bring this... Okay, bringing you down was the wrong call. You look short. Bringing you up is the right call. And then these joints are going to have to bend this way, so we'll leave some room for them to bend that way. And this is going to have to bend this way, so we'll leave some room for that to bend that way. And we can add sort of some design flair by curving that up a little bit. And to make our job rigging a little bit easier later, if this is bent already, then the IK we implement will bend in the proper direction. If it's completely straight, then the IK could go either way, and it's very frustrating. So now if we look up, we look down, we got a whole robot. And he's gonna punch us. So I guess we can start working on internals a little bit. I think we can split the face up. Maybe tuck you under there. This gives us a little bit more detail. And let's give him a top piece with a light on top of his head. Not necessarily an antenna, but just to sort of follow the general design philosophy of the bombs. We have to make him look like he's made by the same people, or alien race or whatever. Probably want to start with a sphere. We can scale you down. Delete these. Which is going to look derpy as hell, but it's about matching the general design philosophy of the game. Now I kind of look like Ape Escape. See which material is which. I want the red one. And we'll go ahead and add some lights on the sides too. So if we match this angle and just scale it up, and delete this ring of faces. If we delete that ring, then we can select the whole object there. Smooth it out. And we can assign the red material here too. So let's shrink this end so we can make room for the joints. What's really cool about Blender is once we have all the joints set up and rigged with bones, we can set up the IK, the inverse kinematics, to only rotate in the direction of the joint. So we can just move the hand and the whole arm will operate properly, including the joints, which will be really cool. I did that on a robot at work. So this will be that. Again, we're mimicking the joint structure of the Terminator because there is no reason to reinvent the wheel or the joint. So we need one that rotates this direction. We probably want to match the pivot of that. Or we can move it up and then add more machines that match that pivot. More mechanical pieces. That way we can move the arms up a little bit and that'll make them look a little more natural. And we probably want this to look like a joint. So we'll bevel it in. Make the bevels smaller, just so they're enough to catch the light, but not big enough to look unnatural. And theirs look pretty cool, so we'll copy that. And we'll probably bevel these in a little bit. Okay, so now the arms can rotate this direction. They can rotate that direction. Now we... I don't know if that's enough. I think we need one more joint. Ugh. Also, if we turn on ambient occlusion, it'll look cool. Now picture this. You're going up against this in VR, so this is the general viewpoint. It'll look massive. Wow. Of course, rotated straight on. We're gonna have to work on his positioning. Well, let's go ahead and get some joints in place, and then I might call it quits for the afternoon and pick it up a little bit later. So I need one joint that can rotate this. And we'll probably again segment the armor and stuff to make it look cooler. Like, this armor wouldn't be terrible right now for practicality's sake, just because it blocks and protects a lot. But in terms of looking cool's sake, it looks pretty derpy and like I don't know what I'm doing. We want to give people an experience in VR. They want to go up against something that looks cool as shit. And that one only has to rotate that way. Now the wrist, in real life, can't rotate much. Like, how this works is these two bones can twist a little bit. Like if you hold your forearm and try to twist your wrist, you can twist it, but not much. Only like a little bit less than 90 degrees. And then we also need one, picture the hand flat. We also need one that can go like that. Excuse me. So we'll put one here and we'll make it smaller but wider. And this will be the wrist joint. And when I go to rig it, I might realize completely that I fucked up and need more joints. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So that'll be wrist joints that can rotate that way. Wow, so much cool stuff going on in this image. I wish I could model like that. Probably could if I wanted to spend more time on it, but I'm just making an indie game, and I just need a giant boss that looks kind of cool. I don't have like 3 months to spend on this. But we can take some design elements from it. Oh my gosh, now he just looks like a prick. Let's see, I'm thinking we want to add some hard edges here. And then this could signify where we split up the panels later. It's got those joints in place. The body's going to need to be able to articulate to some extent, so we'll go ahead and add a joint there. We'll say that the body can move some on the interior around this, just so this part can articulate more clearly this part. We'll connect all of this later. We just want to get the joints in place so we know where he's articulating. And then we probably want one for the waist as well so he can turn. This one can be big. But we don't want it to cut through. And legs, we don't care quite as much about. And we can probably move this waist up a little bit. It feels a little bit elongated to me. We can also move the legs up a little bit, I think. We can make his jaw a little bit boxier like an actual jaw. Right now I'm just tweaking stuff and adding joints. Very non-linear workflow. Just when I see something that needs changing, change it on the fly. Tweak the sizes of this a little bit. Make him look angrier. Or, I don't know. So we're gonna need joints on the legs. One that goes that way for sure. Then one that also goes that way, because you can obviously move your legs that way. So, the question is, what order do we add those in? I think we're going to have to move the legs out a little bit. Maybe add it something like that. Or we could even add it outside. And that would allow us to move the legs back in. Move this joint outside, and it'll look cooler that way. Maybe make it a little bit thicker, so it goes, I think those are the only two joints we need for the legs. We don't, cause so they can rotate out and they can rotate forward. I don't think they can twist much. Twisting is a luxury we're not going to give to the robot. Then we need another joint here. I think we're going to go against traditional conventions here and just give him big-ass calves. This might look cooler. Especially with some cool robot feet. Oh, he's like a horse. Maybe, just so we have it, we will add some joints within the legs that allow them to twist. So now he'll be able to rotate this way, and this way. He'll be able to twist his body, he'll be able to rotate his body. I don't think we're going to need more than one articulation in the body, so we'll put that down here. So he can twist. Yeah, that'll make more sense, I think. And I think we can make this joint bigger so it'll look cooler. And then we can bring his shoulders up some. Gotta figure out how to make his face look less happy. He just looks like he's so happy about killing us. I think his shoulders can come out a little bit more. And maybe that's scaled up just a little bit too much. And I think that gives us a pretty decent start for now. I will stream whenever I decide to work on this again. It could be later today. It could be tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but it could be later this week. Could be later tonight. We'll probably be online playing some Fortnite tonight. Depending on other people's schedules, because I like to stream when I have friends to play with. I need to take a break from this. Maybe give him a little bit more appearance of separation here. I don't know why I'm still working. Yeah, so I think this is a pretty decent start. I think in the next stream we'll focus on maybe adding some more details, internals, working on the paneling more, and probably figuring out how to make him not look so damn happy. He just looks like the happiest robot in the world. Like, he's so friendly, and that's no bueno. So we will figure this out. I keep saying things I want to change. I know I need to take a break, but yeah, I just want to make him like a giant kind of rust bucket, ugly ass robot. So he's like made out of sort of rusted panels. There will be screws that we add in the textures and stuff. I think this is a pretty good start. So, next time I start working on this again, I will definitely live stream it just so I can make a time lapse at the end to sort of show the progress in maybe like 5 to 10 minutes instead of multiple hours. But for anyone watching, feel free to tune in next time, ask questions, learn about Blender, or just hang out. Until then, I will catch you all later.